Hi, this is Tim Weaver from CVG, and I'm here with Andy Kelly from CVG. How you doing, Andy?
Hello, good.
So we're going to talk about Dragon's Dogma here, a game that some people may be interested in. A lot of people probably don't know much about. So tell us about it, Andy.
Yeah, this kind of came out of nowhere. Capcom showed it off a while ago, and it was met with a very weak reaction because it looked like a sort of generic fantasy RPG. But it's actually really imaginative and really hardcore, and like one of the most hardcore console RPGs there is in this current generation. So it's kind of a mixture of, it's got the big open world of Skyrim, but it has the kind of fear and tension and the combat as Dark Souls.
Yeah, because one of the interesting things with it is it's this whole nighttime thing it's got going on. Because am I right in saying all the monsters come out at night?
Yeah, well, during the daylight hours you're relatively safe if you stick to the pathways that lead around the open world, but at night it's genuinely like nighttime, as in you can't see anything unless you've got a torch which has limited fuel. So it creates that sense of if you go out at night you will get your ass kicked, so it's designed in a way that you sort of fear the darkness, which is quite cool, and it makes it feel like a sort of adventure whenever you get stuck out in the middle of the wilderness in the darkness with monsters all around you. So the world is really dangerous. It's not like Dark Souls in there that's really precise and has that depth, precision, but it's like Dark Souls in that enemies can genuinely mess you up if you're not careful.
So tell us a little bit about some of these enemies, because it's based on mythological monsters, isn't it?
Yeah, all the monsters in the sort of general vibe are very much classic Western fantasy. So you got, Cyclops, ogres, like the Cyclops fella here. And the enemies are all really big, and there's tons of them, and they all have different tactics to take them down. But while it's very much steeped in that Western sort of high fantasy, it's still got a bit of the Japanese insanity about it, because it's by Hiroyuki Kobayashi, who was the lead producer on Devil May Cry 4 and Resident Evil 4 as well. So it's got a heritage of strong Japanese game design, but it was their attempt to make a RPG that would appeal to the Skyrim crowd,
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I was going to ask you about it. It's interesting that it's got those sort of Western stylings, presumably because the Japanese RPG has, would it be fair to say, struggled slightly in comparison to the Western RPGs recently?
Well, I think they've been. I mean, Final Fantasy 13 was a good indicator of they were focusing more on linear and action orientated, gameplay, and straying away from the big open world that the old Final Fantasy games were, and Western RPG devs have sort of taken over from that. So this is a JRPG, but only in that it's Japanese. I would never associate it with the usual JRPG type game. It's really unique and has more in common with, like I said, Elder Scrolls and so on, and games of that ilk.
So tell us, give us a sort of example of kind of a really good quest that you played in this game.
Yeah, well, the pawn system, there's a system called the pawn system where you can basically hire these creatures called pawns that look like humans, but they're actually kind of like servants for the main character, and you can hire them, and there's an infinite amount of them. They're randomly generated by the game, or you can download other players off the internet, and the benefit of that is that if a pawn from another player has done a quest before but you haven't, when you're doing that quest with them, they'll shout out help and tips, and it's the only way you're going to get through the game and beat the bosses is by taking the right pawns with experience in the battle, and they'll shout out weaknesses or reveal secret doors and stuff like that. But there's like there's a really good boss battle with a griffin on top of like a castle battlement in the middle of a storm. It's like a really epic moment, and your pawns are there and they're shouting out help, and they're like jumping on its head, and because they're really vocal and they really get stuck in as well. Like you can send them ahead, and you can just let them do the fighting and play as a healer or something and just hang back. It's a really flexible combat system.
So we had Kingdoms of Amalur recently in the year, but this looks to be much more of a successor to Elder Scrolls. Is it similar in terms of size?
Yeah, the world of it's called Grand Seas is the sort of main land, and it's big. It doesn't have the same variety, or it's beautiful in places, but it doesn't have the wow factor of exploring Skyrim. What it makes it different is that in Skyrim you could happily walk anywhere at level 1 and not die and survive. In this, there's no hand-holding or signposting, so you have no idea whether an area it's too much for you, and you find out when you find yourself in a cave full of lizard men that kill you in one hit. But then you go back later, and there's a satisfaction in returning to bits that were too tough for you as a stronger character, and and winning that fight, and you get a sense of character growth, but it doesn't make the world feel dangerous. And not many games these days have a real sense of danger. You die, you restart, it doesn't matter. In this, you feel like death awaits at every corner, which makes it feel like an adventure.
Yeah. So summing up, it's for fans of Elder Scrolls, I guess this is a bit of a no-brainer, is it?
Yeah, it's way less accessible and much harder. You're gonna need a lot of patience and time to get the best out of it. So don't expect something as instantly fun as Elder Scrolls, but it is a similar game in spirit.